all the laws are subordinate to the constitution. So it is a compilation of all the laws that we talk like about fundamental rights, that we talk about power structure among the government levels, about the constitutional organs that we talk. So everything falls under the main core concept, core heading of constitution. So a constitution is an organizing principle that administers the nation in the right direction. So what we can understand is it's a kind of guiding principle. Constitution is a guiding principle of a nation, and without a constitution, we can say like a country would be like a ship without a compass. So on the basis, on the principles of constitution, the country is run and country is guided with the help of constitution. And an ideal and democratic constitution includes all aspirations, wills of the people. So to be a ideal constitution, that should incorporate the will, desire, interest, aspirations of all the people. And to add something more about the concept itself, it determines the structure of the government. What we can understand from this sentence is like about the power division among the levels of government, like after implementing federalism in context to Nepal, we have divided the country into three different levels: federal level, province level, and local level. So that structure, that power, that functions of all the levels, that is mentioned in the constitution. So that is also what the constitution is about the role of all the organs of government. Mostly what we can understand is, so we have the three organs of government: legislature, executive, and judiciary. So about the main role of these major organs, that is also mentioned in the constitution, how it functions, about its major roles, the work that need to be carried out by those organs, like legislature that need to make a law, like executive which implements the law, judiciary which makes a decision, which provides the justice to the people. About all these different functions of the organs, that is listed, that is written in the constitution itself. So that is also why the constitution is much more valuable to any country or to any citizen of any belonging country. So a country is governed, as we have discussed, a country is governed as per the provision that is made in the constitution. So in a constitution also, about the structure of the politics, that is also included in the constitution. So our country is run according to it. So it also have some relevancy, like how a country is run. And about the date of promulgation, it's 3rd of Assos 2072. We were able to promulgate the Constitution of Nepal. So it was there with us. So we have struggled through first Constitutional Assembly. It means first Constitutional Assembly was not able to give us the Constitution of Nepal, was not able to give us the Constitution. So that is why we again had an election of second Constitutional Assembly. So about the date, like in 2070, Mangshir 4, we have an election for Constitutional Assembly for the second time, and only after holding a election for second time, or for formation of the second Constitutional Assembly, we were able to receive the Constitution of Nepal. So here I have used the term Constitutional Assembly. So what we can understand about the term constitutional, or we can say Constitutional Assembly, is like it is about election, or about electing a members to whom we elect just for one particular work, that is to promulgate a constitution. So at that time, we had 601 members who were appointed all over Nepal to be there in constitutional assembly to prepare a constitution. So there are some weakness of the first constitutional assembly that will be dealt more about that idea by our Sushil sir, and talking about the total number of articles, about parts, about schedules. So we have 308 articles in Constitution of Nepal, along with 35 parts and 9 schedules, commonly known as Iti Dhara and Iti Bhag र Iti Parichit भनेर चाहिँ that is how we understand about the articles that is there in the Constitution. So in general, what we can understand is like a constitution is concerned with two main aspects. The first one, the relationship between different levels of government, like about the tiers of government, about the relationship between the organs, between the government. So about all that relationship in a constitution, it is written in a very precise and in a very depth manner. So the first aspect what we can understand about constitution is about the relationship between the different levels of government, and the second thing is about between the government and the citizens. So between the government and the citizens, what we can understand from here is like we can just think like we have three different organs of government, like legislature, executive, judiciary, and all these three organs of government have a kind of influence, have a kind of relationship with the citizens. So every subject matter of those organs has a relationship with the citizens. So these are the major two core concepts about the constitution, that is relationship between or relationship within a government and relationship between government and the citizens. So this is what we need to know about the major aspects of constitution. Talking more about the types. So you may be thinking like what could be the major types of constitution? So to answer that question, I just like to say you like it varies differently because of its nature of existence. In some country we have written constitution, in some countries we have unwritten constitution. Like you can take an example of Britain, considered to be a mother nation of democracy, which does not have a written constitution. And you may also be thinking like how a country can be ruled without a constitution or without a written constitution. So there is one legal term known as precedents, दस्तावेज भनिन्छ. So earlier events that have taken place and the decision that has been made about those events in past based on that. So there is a system, there is a practice. And next thing is about rigid or flexible. In some countries like Australia, Switzerland, they have a very rigid constitution. So rigid constitution in a sense like it is very hard to be amended. So to bring the necessary changes, it's not so easy comparing to a flexible constitution. So on this basis, on the nature of its existence, we can just divide like a constitution can be written, can be unwritten, or can be rigid, or can be flexible. So if we move on to the history, like first time which country has implemented the first constitution, then it goes to USA, the former colony of Great Britain. So they have framed the written constitution is 1787 AD, and they have adopted it from 1789 AD. So this is about the nation and about the major types of constitution. So the second last content that I'm going to present it to everyone is about need of constitution, and the last one it will be about the features. Okay, so why is it necessary? Why a constitution is necessary? So from the previous slide, we have already known like even a country they are really doing good without a constitution also. But to a country like Nepal, a developing country, there should be a kind of established rules that should be written like in a game, like in a soccer, in a football game, there should be some rules and regulations so that everything go according to your order or in a very systematic way. Similar to it, there is a need of constitution. So about the political structure that a country has, so that is determined, that is mentioned, that is included in the constitution itself. So about the formation of political party, about the practice of political activity, everything is mentioned in the constitution. As mentioned before, like it is a supreme law. So all the laws are the subordinate to the constitution. So that is the first point why there is a need of constitution. Second one, like about the rights of the people, fundamental rights, about the human rights, about like we've been studying in our school days, like about the fundamental rights from Article 16 to Article 46, 31 fundamental rights, including right to information, Article number 27, including right of a child, Article number 31. So everything about all those rights, so in order to protect and preserve those rights, also there is a need of constitution. And there is one term that is to establish the principle of rule of law. So to make the citizen feel like there is also a law existing in a nation. So in order to ensure that among the citizens also there is a need of constitution. Okay, so rule of law it's about राज्यको कानुन, विधिको शासन is also a common term that is used to rule of law. And one next important idea that makes us feel like why there is a need of constitution is like sometimes we feel strongly about certain issues which might be against the interest of larger group. So at that moment, to work according to the consensus of the people, to work by fulfilling the rights of the people, by addressing the human rights of the people, we can come to a conclusion. We can just come up with a kind of idea. So for that also there is a need of constitution, and to save the state from anarchy, like to protect a country from lawlessness. Anarchy is about lawlessness. So not to make a country like a country without a law is also a prime need of constitution. And something that we need to know at the end is about like all the organs of government. I have given you like example, legislature, executive, judiciary would be the example of organs of government. So including ordinary citizens derive their power and authority. It means like in order to assign the powers, in order to create the check and balance between the organs of government so that none of the organs of government will misuse the power. So it means like if legislature are the one who makes the law, if they are not making a law according to the desire, according to the interest of the people, so there is executive who can just raise a question to legislature. And if executive, or I can say like cabinet, are doing something wrong, are not working according to its major principle that is based on welfare of the people, then there is judiciary. We can just raise a question mark to executive. So just to maintain that power balance, a check and balance, and like to protect the fundamental rights, to protect the human rights, to protect the civic rights, to the citizens, there is a need of constitution. And at the last, I just want to know, and I just want to discuss about the main characteristics of the constitution. So the first thing about the first characteristics of the constitution of Nepal. So altogether, we have practiced 6 different types of constitution in Nepal since 2004 till 2072. So right now we are in the seventh one. So more about the features of all those types of constitution practice in Nepal, along with its weakness, that will be dealt by Sushil sir. But I feel like discussing about the main characteristics of the constitution, and with the struggle and revolution that our country have experienced, the civil war, the Maoist revolution. So after that revolution, after the sacrifice of people, then only we were able to get that. We were able to receive the constitution of Nepal. Even I have told, like, from the first constitutional assembly, we were not able to declare the constitution. That is why we had a interim constitution, Antarim Samvidhan. So Antarim Samvidhan means like till the next constitution will not be formulated, it will be there as a constitution. It will be working as a main constitution of Nepal. So that is what I just want to share with you all. And it's a document of political consensus. So without having the consensus among the political parties, we are not able to declare the constitution. Even there were certain groups of people at the time. I can openly say, like, at that time, the Maoist, I mean, like, at that time, when Maoists have come up with that ideas of revolution, the idea of republic country, idea of federalism. So somehow the Madhisi groups were dissatisfied, and they were against the constitution of Nepal. But due to the practice, due to the characteristics like inclusiveness included in our constitution, like secularism that is included in our constitution, are the major highlights of our constitution. So they were somehow able to satisfy their demand at that time. So third one about Federal Democratic Republic Constitution. So our country has been declared as a Federal Democratic Republican country. So about that declaration also, it's there and it's mentioned in the Constitution of Nepal about sovereignty vested in the people. The most commonly used word sovereignty, mostly in social studies. So sovereignty is all about the power that people have to make their decision, either internal or external. That is about sovereignty. When you talk about sovereignty, it's about like the power given to the people to make the decisions, either internal one about the country or about external means about the relationship of one country with another one. So that is about sovereignty. So that sovereignty is vested in the people, which means citizens are the most powerful one. They are the one who is at the supreme power according to the constitution. Not only according to the constitution, but that is the features of a democratic, and that is the features of a republican or federal constitution. So in order to guarantee fundamental rights, human rights is also the major features of our constitution. It is able to guarantee the fundamental rights of the people. It is able to guarantee human rights, although we have certain challenges in implementation. As there is a popular saying, like, Nepal is very good at preparing a blueprint report, but very weak at implementation. So always in context to implementation, we have certain challenges. And next one, independent judiciary and rule of law. Uh, the provision made in the constitution that we have 3 different tiers, we have 3 different courts in our nation. There will be district court in all the districts, There will be high court in all different provinces. It means we have 7 high courts and we have Supreme Court. So what they have emphasized is like the judiciary Nyayapalika should not be influenced by any of the components. So they are the independent one, and that provision has been made in the Constitution of Nepal that the judiciary will be independent. The next one, competitive multi-party democracy system. So about that political structure, like there will be a kind of competition between the political parties. So someone who comes up with a better idea, they will be supported by the citizens. So that is why the structure has been made. To discuss something more about inclusive constitution, so why we can say like the Constitution of Nepal 2072 is inclusive is because the people from various backgrounds, they are brought into the mainstream of development. So in past, like certain groups, they were isolated. They were not brought into the main line of participation. So in order to enhance the people's participation also, and there is people's participation. So we can see like there is maximum people's participation after promulgation of the Constitution of Nepal. So from there also what we can derive is like our constitution is an inclusive constitution. Like we have heard about quota system, giving certain quotas to Dalit, giving certain quotas to female, giving some quotas to backward region. So why such types of practices is been there is just to make the constitution inclusive. Practically what we can understand is to incorporate everyone in development activities, in political activities, not isolating any group. So that is the major core concept about inclusive constitution. So our inclusive constitution has highlighted the issue, has highlighted the idea of inclusiveness, Samaveshi. So that is what we commonly used to use to that term, Samaveshi, when you see everyone included. So the literal meaning of inclusive is to include everyone or everything. So the second last one is about secularism, dharma niripeksha. So a country will not be having any official religion. So still we have 82% of the people who follow Hinduism, but our country is a secular state. So secularism is there. That value of secularism is there, like giving equal priority to all the religion, and a state not having any official religion, not promoting any official religion, not just giving some privilege to any of the religions. So that is about the main concept of secularism. And last one is about mixed electoral system. So we have bicameral legislature. So व्यवस्थापिका पनि we have a kind of bicameral, एउटा हाउस अफ रिप्रेजेन्टेटिभ प्रतिनिधि सभा, अर्को नेसनल एसेम्ब्ली राष्ट्रिय सभा. So the election that takes place in House of Representatives, there are also two different forms. एउटा direct election, next one is about proportional. So proportional भनेको समानुपातिक, like the whole country will be one unit. So that is what that is about, like different types of election system in a nation. So here I come to the end. So if you just want me to just explain something, then you can please raise me a question. Else you can also keep it to the end. So after the next teacher, you'll be presenting about the topic. We can also like do the question and answer at the end.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Abhimanyu sir. So more or less, just a quick recall and recap also. Okay. So it was based on introduction about constitution, what was explained by Abhimanyu sir, and then after that we talked about the different types of constitution and why is the need of constitution, and finally he discussed about the features that's according to our present constitution, that is 2072. So this were the things that he just mentioned. So before I move on, okay, it must be, I just want you to write what you know about constitution very quickly in the chat box, how much you can write, okay, very quickly. How much based on this right now, what you just heard, okay? So what you know only you can just write it. Just 1 minute. Okay, now next question. So like he also talked about United Kingdom does not have written constitution, yet the state affairs are run well. How do you think so? So we can again do it at the end again based on that, like just discuss as well. Just a quick recap of what has been also done. Okay, so what do we know about this? So what are the constitutions? This is based on what I'm going to also discuss now. So what are the constitutions from 2004 up till 2072? Which constitutions do you know? Just write quickly only. It doesn't have to be fully so much. Just a few of them only. Because we will be discussing about this itself. So before we begin, just a very quick recall to just see how many of you are already familiar with that as well. So I'm not giving so much time because most of us might have already also studied, right? So just wanted you to how much you can recall on. Okay, and another, like US has the oldest constitution in the world and has adopted the same constitution even today. Like in case of Nepal, you can see that we have had several constitutions changed with the time. That was a need also. Okay, but US A has the oldest constitution and it is still been adopting the same constitution even today. Okay, within the 60 years. Why do you think so? What why do you think so? This thing is also happening. Okay, so with this, it was just a warm up, just for you a little break. Okay, in the middle of to both lectures, just a short break as well. So and a little, just one short video, just to summarize that what is about constitution.
Okay, so before we talk about what a constitution is, let's first explain why we need one. Let's start by looking at the fundamental things we all need as human beings. These are a voice in the decisions that affect our lives, material well-being such as food, shelter, and education, security and protection from violence or discrimination, and recognition and respect as individuals and communities. To help meet these needs, people create governments and delegate powers to them to exercise for the common good of society. The problem, though, is that while governments need powers to perform their functions, history tells us again and again that power without limits can lead to corruption, dictatorship, and oppression. Free, fair, and regular elections might help ensure good government. They allow people to select who they want in power, and over time, to vote out those who perform badly. But we also need some basic rules to control how that power is used, so that those who win elections still have to respect your rights and promote your interests, rather than using power for their own benefit. Just as in a game of football, there have to be rules and a referee. So in a democracy, there must be rules by which all the players are bound. These rules are provided in a constitution. The constitution is a law, but it's not just an ordinary law. A constitution is a supreme law that establishes, organizes, and empowers the government, and determines how other laws are made and implemented. It is also more difficult to change than ordinary laws, so that those in power cannot make up the rules as they go along. Football wouldn't be fair if the winning team could change the rules, and democracy isn't fair if those in power can just change the constitution according to their own whim. The constitution harnesses the energy and power of the state, ensuring that the people control the reins. This explains why when people are trying to establish a new, fairer society, one of the first things they do is write a new constitution. This is what Norway did in 1814, India in 1950, South Africa in 1996, and Colombia in 1991. Indeed, nearly all countries in the world have a constitution to establish rules for using power. On the other hand, we've seen that when a democratic government is illegally overthrown, one of the first things the coup leaders do is set their sights on destroying the constitution. They don't want any inconvenient limits on their ability to rule by force. So the constitution both organizes and constrains power. Now, how does it do that? Well, there are several ways. One way is to divide power between different political institutions. For example, sharing functions between a president and a prime minister, or between two houses of a legislature, or between different levels of government, the national level, the regional, state or provincial level, and the local level. A constitution defines the powers of these institutions and regulates the relationship between them. It also ensures that power is rotated. One year we may vote for one candidate or party, but after a few years, their time will be up, and we will have the chance to choose someone else. This means that no one person, party, or institution can accumulate too much power or stay in power too long. It is important to maintain a strict separation between the political institutions on the one hand, such as the elected parliament and government, and on the other hand, the permanent neutral institutions of the state, such as the courts, the military, the police, and the civil service. Constitutions also constrain power by saying what governments must and must not do. For example, a set of constitutional rights may specify that you can't be tortured, that you can't be imprisoned without due cause, and that your freedom of expression can't be infringed. Other provisions may direct the government to provide for basic human needs, such as education, healthcare, sanitation, or housing. Constitutions don't only protect the majority. There may be special provisions for minorities and marginalized groups, for their security, their participation in government, and protections for their identity and culture. Most constitutions also have a nation-building function. They seek to embody national unity and to reflect and declare the identity of the nation and its people. The Constitution announces to citizens, to the government itself, and to the outside world what the nation is, what it stands for, where it has come from, and what its vision for the future might be. A good constitution is just one step along the road to a peaceful, prosperous, and democratic society, but it is a fundamental one. By setting down the rules by which the state should be governed, a good constitution helps to ensure that the democratic aspirations of a people become and remain a reality.
That was a short video to just refresh plus just review what has been told. So based on this, I would like to continue with the little bit of characteristic of a good constitution, and then we'll discuss about those constitutional development in Nepal. Okay, so that we can know why is the change also going according to the time. So an ideal constitution, like this is an ideal constitution. Okay, how should it be looking like? So a good constitution should be having all the provision of all the fundamental rights. That's in the part 3 of the constitution itself. Provision of rule of law. So rule of law was often talked like where everyone is below the law. everyone is abiding according to the law. That's what is already there in the constitution, which was not in the earlier constitution. Same is separation of power. The power should be separated, so there is a good check and balance, right? If someone gets the full power, there might be misuse of the power. So it brings a good check and balance. So separation of power. These things were all itself also discussed in the more or less in our features of the 2072 Constitution by Abhimanyu sir also. Okay, like where these things were being reflected, and at the same time, independent judiciary, where the judiciary is totally independent, that they are not uh, affected by the legislative and executive so much. Okay, this should be also an independent judiciary, which is also itself in our constitution. Universality, same way, that means it should be more or less based on universal practices going on, changeable, so that it can be changed. And the thing is, like, it is been changed with the time, like it is been modified also. Clarity, it should be very clear, it should not be bring any double meaning there. Totally things should be very clear, cert, and at the same time priority to popular will, so based on democratic practice itself. So these are the these are the characteristic what a good constitution should be having. So based on that, like, let's see and try to compare like how it has been moving towards like making it a good constitution, and so that we can see from the constitution and how it has been developing in Nepal based on history. So it's to explain the constitutional development in Nepal here. So if we see, we don't really have a very long history of constitutional development. So it started itself from around 2004. So that was before even democracy. So before democracy also 2007, it was already starting. Okay, the practice was starting in 2004 itself. So that was the first written constitution by the Rana Prime Minister at that time. That was Padma Samser in 2004 itself. And that was supposed to be in effect, okay, but it was not implemented. But they couldn't implement that. So that draft was just made, and so it just remained as a draft, and they couldn't use that constitution. So the first one over itself here, the Government of Nepal Act, that is known as Vaidanik Kanun 2004. So implemented by Padma Samser, okay, who was very liberal, okay, but this was not implemented. And later on, like Mohan Samser banned the Constitution of 2004. So because they were afraid that it was going to be democratic, so these were the reasons. That's why it was banned. So after that, so next, after only democracy, then there was a constitution, that is Nepal Interim Rule 2007. That's interim constitution is because after they just got the democracy, then this is the constitution between that transition period, okay, before they make the main constitution. Like we had a interim constitution in 2063, right? So because before they make the other constitution, so this is the interim constitution. And the in this interim constitution, that the major provision was like itself, that the executive power would remain in the king and the council of ministers, that the powers would be over there, because it was after the democracy, after the autocratic rule. And at the same time, that fundamental rights would be also kept in the constitution, and Supreme Court and High Court also would be kept. So these were the provisions that they planned of keeping in the they kept it in the interim constitution. However, like later on, it was like king in this thing, like king had the power also, that the council of ministers also could be dissolved, right? So the separation of power was also not so much accepted. Those were the weaknesses in this constitution. And king often used to amend the constitution, though there was no any provision written in the constitution, and everyone is supposed to like more or less go with that rule of law as well. So this is of 2007, and after that there was a next constitution that was in 2015. So in 2015, constitution of Nepal, this was itself done during the time of King Mahendra. Okay, when King Mahendra was there, and it had 10 parts. Like it had 10 parts, 77 articles. Okay, based on different parts, how it has been divided in our present constitution as well. And in this constitution, that the parliament was itself bicameral, where it was into two houses, Pratinidhi Sabha and Rashtriya Sabha. Pratinidhi Sabha and Rashtriya Sabha. That is, Pratinidhi Sabha is the House of Representatives, and Rashtriya Sabha is the National Assembly. And after that, like in this fundamental rights that were over here is like there were some fundamental rights, and they had National Council of Ministers. Supreme Court was also kept according to the Constitution. Auditor General, independent judiciary, and like that, one of the good features, right? And emergency power was given to the king as well. However, like if we say this weakness in this, like is like uh, we can see there is a active role of king in the constitution through constitutional monarchy. So that is like itself trying to show more or less a weakness where king is trying to show the active role for the constitution in a sense, like uh, trying to some of the time, no, it doesn't go under the rule of law as well. So these were few of the weaknesses. And after that, like then there was next constitution in 2019. I'm just talking about the main summary itself here. In 2019, this was again made during the time of King Mahendra itself, like where the sovereignty was vested in king, and they made that constitution itself as the main law. And there was a provision of partyless panchayat system. So this was the part of constitution. It was immediately after 2 years. Okay, immediately after 2 years, and then chief justice was to be appointed by the discretion of the king itself during this constitution. But the weakness over here is that like the government uh, had to be responsible to the king than the people. Okay, like they had to follow according to the kings, like according to the king, rather than what would be making what then rather than what the people needed. Okay, rather than the need of the people. So that was one of the also weakness according to this constitution. And other things like Supreme Court also like was not considered as the final court, that king could still order to review the cases, more or less overruling. Okay, so this type of things can be also seen. So so these were the weakness. And then next constitution is the constitution of Kingdom of Nepal. I'm not going to talk about so much history about all the things, but just a brief summary of the constitution itself. Like this constitution of Nepal 2047. So this was the first constitution which recognized people as a sovereign power, with the people itself were given power, and the king was itself not. It was not monarchical. It was ceremonial, constitutional monarch. Okay. Over there in this, like the king was a constitutional monarch. It was not absolute monarchy where like king would be exercising most of the power itself. So in that type of government, in this type of government, and there was a system of parliamentary system. Voting rights were given to adults. Fundamental rights were also added. I will be showing in case of interim constitution also what fundamental rights have been added accordingly slowly. Then next one is rule of law. Rule of law was also over there, that which we have been often talking in regards to constitution. So after 2047, Now, I just want to go a little more in detail than the others, like Interim Constitution of Nepal 2063. So this is the time during when we were having the civil war to different people's movement. Okay, and after that people's movement, you can all remember the how like king had a king resigned, and after the resignation, then they were so after like after that was successful by the help of all the 8 parties, right, including Maoist, Congress, to everyone. Okay, then after the king was removed, then they were supposed to go for a new constitution. So before that, they had this interim constitution. This is because this is the transition period where they're supposed to make a new constitution. So, but before that, so immediately these things were also addressed in the new constitution, that sovereignty and state power in people itself. There's no more king, right? Secular state was also already kept during that time of interim constitution itself. Multi-party democratic system, that it was also made during interim constitution of Nepal itself. Independent judiciary is this continuation. The unicameral legislature, it is only one, where we had 601 members. We all remember that. So from bicameral, it went to unicameral, and again, it's coming back to bicameral. Election of Constituent Assembly. So there was election of Constituent Assembly, plus at the same time, they were supposed to make the constitution. So in that, another part was added itself in the constitution regarding National Human Rights Commission. So these things were also added. So you can see in the amendment there, they have been slowly adding according to the need, and that's one of the feature is changeability is also there, and they're doing according to need of the time as well. So special features of this constitution are itself that is also, this one is itself that is also written. There's fundamental right, fundamental law. Okay, all these fundamental rights, like some of these things were added. Article 12, 13, 14, 15 in part 3, right to freedom, right to equality, right against racial discrimination and untouchability, right to press and newspaper, right to environment and health, okay, right to education and culture, right to employment and social security, right to property. So you can see these things were being added itself around in 2063, right to women. I'm not going to talk about them in detail because we do all understand them. Right to social justice, but the things were being added. Right to children, right to religion, right to justice, right against preventive detention, right against physical torture, right to notice, right to secrecy, right against exploitation, right to labor, right against exile, right to constitutional remedy. That's itself trying to talk about making amendment. So these things were added itself in 2063 on fundamental rights. And next feature was itself at that time, sovereignty in the hand of people, and secular state also was already during that time. Independent and capable judiciary. The legislature was unicameral, one house with itself like 601 members, different than 2047. So fundamental rights were also guaranteed, like others, like we can see here. So this were the so these are the part of like how constitution has been developing with the time, and in this and after that the weakness is here. Rather than the weakness, we can see that they were supposed to make the constitution of the final constitution, which was itself taking time. So finally, after that, there was Constitution of Nepal 2072, and that's what like Abhimanyu sir also talked about. So that was first, it was prepared by Constituent Assembly on 3rd Aswin 2072. So before there was a draft itself, and it has 35 parts, 308 articles. So if you see the constitution, this is also like here, I have opened little draft plus the ones which were changes according to the time. Okay, like there are a few changes rather than like these are the ones which are added. The ones in colors you can see in those section, normally it has been added over there. So you can just understand how it has been amended with the time, because we are not going to go in detail with that. So the part 3, this is all about fundamental rights. Part 4, directive policies and obligation of state. Part 5, structure of state and distribution of state power. And part 6 is about the president and vice president, all the different clauses. The final one is different, but I'm just showing so that you can just understand what were the changes. Okay, at that time, what were the main changes? And federal executive, because this is itself a new thing that was added in 2072. Form of governance, like all this organ of government based on different levels: federal, federal level, state level, and local level. How all these different organs of government are divided, like federal executive, part 7. In that federal executive, all with the governance with the council of ministers, and then federal legislature as well, legislative parliament, which we have right now, right? 165 members from past the post, and from proportional 110 members who form in the legislative federal legislature. Okay, how they are constituted, all these things: first past the post, proportional 110. So the how they again make in the other house, national assembly, and qualification. All these things are mentioned itself, which we are also aware. Next is itself judiciary. So this is how it has been, you can see from the color itself, the ones which were changed in 2063, which were updated and changed. So we will not go so much detail in that, but you can just see there are different parts and all the things are mentioned, and especially you can see the powers of the federal level. What are the powers, like what power they have, what power they can utilize, and what power they cannot utilize, because it goes to because it is decentralized to the state level, provincial powers. Then what are the provincial powers? So different powers, and that's how ours, we have different levels according to that, which are all defined in the constitution itself. Okay, so this consists of more or less the whole constitution, and so that's all about 35 parts and 308 articles and 9 schedules. So at the end there were 9 schedules. So exactly that constitution was divided into 35 parts, 308 articles and 9 schedules. So characteristics were also already discussed, but during the time when it was coming, there were a few changes. I just wanted to tell that draft was already coming before around itself, and then later on it was supposed to come around Shravan, but it came around the time which we see also 3. So these are the things characteristic of Constitution of Nepal that has been already discussed. Okay. Yeah, so this is about the constitutional development in Nepal, how it has been developed. Okay, so if there are any question answers regarding this thing, also Manu sir is also here, I'm also here. So I think so you know how Constitution, why is Constitution Day celebrated? Manu sir?
All right, Susan sir, I think we shall wrap up the session now because I think everybody is really, really tired.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, thank you so much for joining in. आजको हाम्रो सेसन गर्ने हाम्रो मेन उद्देश्य चाहिँ कस्तो थियो भने, सेसन सिरिज अफ सेसन गर्ने हाम्रो उद्देश्य हो फर्स्ट अफ अल कन्स्टिट्युसन डेलाई कमेमोरेट गर्नको लागि सेकेन्डमा चाहिँ अब इट्स नट ओन्ली द स्टुडेन्ट्स हु सुड नो अबाउट कन्स्टिट्युसन इट्स अल्सो अब अस राइट किनभने संविधानले त हामीलाई डिरेक्टली इम्प्याक्ट पारेर हुन्छ हरेक चिजमा सो हामीले पनि जान्नु जरुरी छ कतिपय केसमा हामीलाई थाहा छ कतिपय केसमा हामीलाई थाहा छैन अनि बिङ द सोसल स्टडिज टिचर इन राजश्री गुरुकुल सुशील सर र अभिमन्यु सरले चाहिँ लिड गर्ने जिम्मा लिनुभएको थियो होइन सो टाइमिङमा अलिकति यता त्यता भयो मेबी पिपल वर कन्फ्युज लाइक मिटिङ भएन एन्ड देन आफ्नो काममा सबैजना लाग्नुभयो होला तर केही छैन आई थिङ्क इट वाज अ भेरी वन्डरफुल सेसन एन्ड फ्रुटफुल पनि भयो होला भन्ने आशा राख्दछौँ नबुझेको कुराहरू अलिअलि भए पनि बुझ्यो होला होइन अब नेक्स्ट टाइम चाहिँ योभन्दा बेटर गरौँ त्यही हो यति भन्दै आजको हाम्रो सेसनको लागि सुशील सर र अभिमन्यु सरलाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद दिँदै आज हामी बिदा चाहन्छौँ थ्याङ्क यू सो मच यु भोलि चाहिँ 6 to 10 को लागि चाहिँ ओके थ्याङ्क यू भोलि चाहिँ 6
Thank you so much, ma'am, and everyone. Hazir.
ओके
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
सुन भोलि 6, 7, 8 को एउटा सेसन छ 3:30 मा होइन अनि लाइकवाइज 9, 10, 12 को एउटा सेसन छ 2:30 मा अनि ग्रेड टिचर्सले चाहिँ प्लिज नोटिस पठाउनु होला अबाउट द कन्स्टिट्युसन डे स्पेसल यस्तै जेनरल आइडिया अबाउट कन्स्टिट्युसनको कुराहरू हुन्छ भोलि अनि फिनाले चाहिँ सन्डेमा हुन्छ कि सो बिफोर गोइङ टु द फिनाले टकिङ अबाउट कन्स्टिट्युसन वी वान्ट टु टक अबाउट द जेनरल आइडिया अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन प्रायर त्यही भएर भोलि चाहिँ हामी बच्चाहरूसँग पनि बस्नेछौँ होइन त्यसरी Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.